I don't think anyone will join, but I just kind of want to get reaction on video for Shannon later. Okay, so we are in Song of Achilles, and I'm pretty sure I'm at the moment where Patroclus is going to die. So we are in chapter 30 of Song of Achilles right now, and I'm just going to read this out loud if anyone happens to join. Achilles knelt, buckling me in, his fingers so swift that I could not follow them, only feel the quick pulling cinches of tightening belts. Bit by bit, he assembled me, the bronze breastplate and greaves tight against my skin, the leather underskirt as he worked. He instructed me in a voice that was low and quick and constant. I must not fight. I must not leave Automedon nor the Myrmidons. I was to stay in the chariot and flee at the first sign of danger. I could chase the Trojans back to Troy, but not to fight them there. And most of all, I must stay away from the walls of the city and the archers that perch there ready to pick off the Greeks who came too close. It'll not be like before, he said, when I am there. I know, I shifted my shoulders. The armor was stiff and heavy and unyielding. I feel like Daphne, I told him, barked up in her new laurel skin. He did not laugh, only handed me 2 spears, points polished and gleaming. I took them, the blood beginning to rush in my ears. He was speaking again, more advice, but I did not hear it. I was listening to the drumbeat of my own impatient heart. Hurry, I remember saying. Last, the helmet to cover my dark hair. He turned a polished bronze mirror towards me. I stared at myself in armor and knew as well as my own hands. The crest on the helmet, the silvered sword hanging from the waist, the baldric of hammered gold, all of it unmistakable and instantly recognizable. Only my eyes felt like my own, larger and darker than his. He kissed me, catching me up in a soft, open warmth that breathed sweetness into my throat. Then he took my hand and we went outside to the Myrmidons. Hi, we're reading Song of Achilles if you're joining me. They were lined up, armored, and suddenly fearsome, their layers of metal flashing like bright wings of cicadas. Achilles led me to the chariot, already yoked to its 3-horse team. Don't leave the chariot, don't throw your spears. And I understood he was afraid that I would give myself away if I actually fought. I'll be all right, I told him. And I turned my back to fit myself into the chariot, to settle my spears and set my feet. Behind me, he spoke a moment to the Myrmidons, waving his hand over his shoulder at the smoking decks of the ship. The black ash that swarmed upwards to the sky and the rolling mass of bodies that tussled at their hulls. Bring him back to me, he told them. They nodded and clattered their spears on their shields in approval. Automedon stepped in front of me, taking the reins. We all knew why the chariot was necessary. If I ran down the beach, my steps would never be mistaken for his. The horses snorted and blew, feeling their charioteer behind them. The wheels gave a little lurch, and I staggered, my spears rattling. Balance them, he told me. It'll be easier. Everyone waited as I awkwardly transferred 1 spear into my hand, swiping my helmet askew as I did so. I reached up to fix it. I will be fine, I told him myself. Are you ready? Automedon asked. I took a last look at Achilles, standing by the side of the chariot, almost forlorn. I reached for his hand and he gripped it. Be careful, he said. If you have not read the Iliad, I'm pretty sure that was the last moment. I know what's coming. This is why we're on live right now. Okay. I will. There was more to say, but for once we did not say it. There will be other times for speaking, tonight and tomorrow, and all the days after that. No, there won't! He let go of my hand. I turned back to Automedon. I'm ready, I told him. The chariot began to roll. Automedon guiding it towards the packed sand nearer the surf. I felt when we reached it, the wheels catching, the car smoothing out. We turned towards the ships, picking up speed. I felt the wind snatch at my crest, and I knew that the horsehair was streaming behind me. I lifted my spears. Automedon crouched down low so that I would be seen first. Sand flew from our turning wheels, and the Myrmidons clattered behind us. My breath had begun to come in gasps. I gripped the spear shafts till my fingers hurt. We flew past the empty tents of Idomeneus and Diomedes at the beach's curve, and finally the first clumps of men. Their faces blurred by, but I heard their shouts of recognition and sudden joy. Achilles, it's Achilles! I felt a fierce and flooding relief. It is working. Now, 200 paces away, rushing towards me, were the ships and the armies, heads turning at the noise of our wheels and the Myrmidon feet beating in unison against the sand. I took a breath and squared my shoulders inside the grip of his armor. And then, head tilted back, spear raised, feet braced against the sides of the chariot, praying that we would not hit a bump that would throw me, I screamed, a wild frenzy sound that shook my whole body. 1,000 faces, Trojan and Greek, turned to me in frozen shock and joy. With a crash, we were among them. I screamed again, his name boiling up out of my throat, and heard an answering cry from the embattled Greeks, an animal howl of hope. The Trojans began to break apart before me, scrambling backwards with gratifying terror. I bared my teeth in triumph, blood flooding my veins, the fierceness of my pleasure as I saw them run. But the Trojans were brave men, and not all of them ran. My hand lifted, hefting my spear in threat. Let's see, anyone join? A little bit. Okay. Perhaps it was the armor molding me. Perhaps it was the years of watching him. But the position my shoulder found was not the old wobbling awkwardness. It was higher, stronger, a perfect balance. And then, before I could think about what I did, I threw a long, straight spiral into the breast of a Trojan. The torch that had been waving at Idomeneus's ship slipped and gutted in the sand as his body pitched backwards. If he bled, his skull split to show his brain. I did not see it. Dead, I thought. Automedon's mouth was moving, his eyes wide. Achilles did not want you to fight, I guess he was saying, but already my other spear hefted into my hand. I can do this. The horses veered again, the men scattering from our path. That feeling again of pure balance, of the world poised and waiting. My eye caught on a Trojan, and I threw, feeling the swipe of wood against my thumb. He fell, pierced through the thigh, in a blow I knew that had shattered bone. 2. All around me, men screamed Achilles' name. I gripped Automedon's shoulder. Another spear. He hesitated a moment, then pulled on the reins, slowing so I could lean over the side of the rattling chariot to claim one stuck in a body. The shaft seemed to leap into my hand, my eyes already searching for the next face. The Greeks began to rally, Menelaus killing a man beside me, one of Nestor's sons banging his spear against my chariot as if for luck before he threw it at a Trojan prince's head. Desperately, the Trojans scrambled for their chariots in full retreat. Hector ran among them, crying out for order. He gained his chariot, began to lead the men to the gate, and then over to the narrow causeway that bridged the trench and onto the plain below. Go! Follow them! Automedon's face was full of reluctance, but he obeyed, turning the horses in pursuit. I grabbed more spears from bodies, half dragging a few corpses behind me before I could jerk the points free and chase the Trojan chariots, now choking the door. I saw their drivers looking back fearfully, frantically, at Achilles reborn, phoenix-like from his sulking rage. Not all the horses were as nimble as Hector's, and many panicked chariots skidded off the causeway to founder in the trench, leaving their drivers to flee on foot. We followed Achilles' godlike horses racing with their legs outflung into the palm of the air. I might have stopped them with the Trojans scattering back to their city, but there was a line of rallied Greeks behind me screaming his name. His name. My name. His name. I did not stop. I pointed, and Automedon swept the horses out in an arc, lashing them onward. We passed the fleeing Trojans and curved around to meet them as they ran. My spear aimed and aimed again, splitting open bellies and throats, lungs and hearts. I am relentless, unerring, skirting buckles and bronze to tear flesh that spills red like the jagged puncture of a wineskin. From my days in the white tent, I know every frailty they have. It is so easy. From the rolling melee bursts a chariot. The driver is huge, his long hair flying behind as he lashes his horses to foam and froth. His dark eyes are fixed on me, his mouth twisted in rage. His armor fits him like the skin fits the seal. It's Sarpedon. Okay, so if you know your Homer, Sarpedon dies first. And Sarpedon is Zeus's son. Zeus is like, I can't save this guy, because if I save him, the gods are going to start saving their own kids, or they're going to get too involved in the battle. So he lets Sarpedon die. But as a price for Sarpedon dying, that's when he's like, okay, I'm not going to grant Achilles' prayer request that Patroclus make it back. So the fact that we're getting Sarpedon appearance right here, it's gonna happen. It's happening. It's happening. His arm lifts to aim his spear at my heart. Automedon screams something, yanks at the reins. There is breath of wind over my shoulder. The spear's sharp point buries itself in the ground behind me. Sarpedon shouts, curse or challenge, I do not know. I heft my spear as if in a dream. This is the man who has killed so many Greeks. It was his hand that tore open the gate. No! Automedon catches my arm. With his other hand, he lashes the horses, and we tear up the field. Sarpedon turns his chariot, angling it away, and for a moment I think he has given up. Then he angles in again and lifts his spear. The world explodes. The chariot bucks into the air, and the horses scream. I am thrown into the grass, and my head smacks the ground. My helmet falls forward onto my eyes, and I shove it back. I see the horses tangled in each other. One is fallen, pierced with a spear. I do not see Automedon. From afar, Sarpedon comes, his chariot driving relentlessly towards me. There is no time to flee. I stand to meet him. I lift my spear, gripping it as though it is a snake I will strangle. I imagine how Achilles would do it, feet planted to the earth, back muscles twisting. He would see a gap in that impenetrable armor, or he would make one. But I am not Achilles. What I see is something else, my only chance. They are almost upon me. I cast the spear. It hits his belly, where the armor plate is thick, but the ground is uneven, and I have thrown it with all my strength. It does not pierce him, but it knocks him back a single step. It is enough. His weight tilts the chariot, he tumbles from it, the horses plunge past me and leave him behind, motionless on the ground. I clutch my sword hilt, terrified that he will rise and kill me. Then I see a unnatural, broken angle of his neck. I have killed a son of Zeus, but it is not enough. They must think that it was Achilles who has done it. The dust was already settled on Sarpedon's long hair like pollen on the underside of a bee. I retrieve my spear and stab it down with all my strength into his chest. The blood spurts, but weakly. There is no heartbeat to push it forward. When I pull my spear out, it dislodges slowly like a bulb from the crackling earth. That is what they will think has killed him. I hear the shouts, men swarming towards me, in chariots and on foot. Lycians who see the blood of their own king on my spear. Automedon's hand seizes my shoulder, and he drags me onto the chariot. He has cut the dead horse free, righted the wheels. He is gasping, white with fear. We must go! Automedon gives the eager horses their head, and we race across the fields from the pursuing Lycians. There is a wild, iron taste in my mouth. I do not even notice how close I have come to death. My head buzzes with a red savagery, booming like the blood from Sarpedon's chest. In our escape, Automedon has driven us close to Troy. The walls loom up at me, huge cut stones, supposedly settled by the hands of the gods, and the gates giant and black with old bronze. Achilles has warned me to beware of archers on the towers, but the change and rout has happened so quickly, and no one has returned yet. Troy is utterly unguarded. A child could take it now. Hey Shannon, I'm almost at the moment, so I thought I'd get on live just in case I want footage of this for the podcast stuff. Okay, so they're at the walls of Troy right now. Like, he's running away from the battle. Automedon has driven them by the walls of Troy. Okay. I leap from the chariot and run to the walls. My fingers find slight hollows in the stone, like blind eye sockets. Climb. My feet seek infinitesimal chips in the god-cut rocks. I am not graceful, but scrabbling, my hands clawing against the stone before they cling. Yet I am climbing. I will crack their uncrackable city and capture Helen, the precious gold yolk within. I imagine dragging her out under my arm, dumping her before Menelaus is done. No more men will have to die for her vanity. Patroclus, a voice like music above me. I look up to see a man leaning on the walls as if sunning, dark hair to his shoulders, a quiver and a bow slung casually around his torso. Oh, I know who this is. Startled, I slip a little, my knee scraping the rock. He is piercingly beautiful, smooth skin and finely cut face that glows with something more than... Oh, gosh, black eyes, Apollo. No! He smiles as if this was all he wanted, my recognition. Then he reaches down, his arm impossibly spanning the long distance between my clinging form and his feet. I close my eyes and my feet and feel only this, a finger hooking the back of my armor, plucking me off and dropping me below. I land heavily, my armor clattering. My mind blurs a little from the impact, from the frustration of finding the ground so suddenly beneath me. I thought I was climbing, but there's the wall before me, stubbornly unclimbed. I set my jaw and begin again. I will not let it defeat me. I am delirious, fevered with my dream of Helen captive in my arms. The stones are like dark waters that flow ceaselessly over something I have dropped that I want back. I forget about the god, why I have fallen, why my feet stick in the same crevices that I had already climbed. Perhaps this is all I do. I think, demented, climb walls and fall from them. And this time when I look up, the god is not smiling. Fingers scoop the fabric of my tunic and hold me dangling, then let me fall. Oof. My head cracks the ground again, leaving me stunned and breathless. Around me, a blurring crowd of faces gather. Have they come to help me? And then I feel the prickling chill of air against my sweat-damped forehead, the loosening of my dark hair freed at last. My helmet, I see it beside me, overturned like an empty snail shell. My armor, too, has been shaken loose. All those straps that Achilles had tied, undone by the god, it falls from me, scattering the earth, the remnants of my spilt shell. The frozen silence is broken by the hoarse, angry screams of Trojans. My mind startles to life. I am unarmed and alone, and they know that I am only Patroclus. Run! I lunge to my feet. A spear flashes out, just a breath too slow. It grazes the skin of my calf, marks it with a line of red. I twist away from a reaching hand, panic loose and banging in my chest. Through the haze of terror, I see a man leveling a spear at my face. Somehow I am quick enough, and it passes over me, ruffling my hair like a lover's breath. A spear stabs towards my knees, meant to trip me. I leap it, shocked I am not dead already. I have never been so fast in my life. The spear that I do not see comes from behind. It pierces the skin of my back, breaks again to air beneath my ribs. I stumble, driven forward by the blow's force, by the shock of tearing pain and the burning numbness in my belly. I feel a tug and the spear point is gone. Blood gushes hot on my chilled skin. I think I scream. That was it. That was it! The Trojan faces waver. I fall. My blood runs through my fingers and onto the grass. The crowd parts and I see a man walking towards me. He seems to come from a greater distance to descend somehow, as if I lay in the bottom of a deep ravine. I know him. Hip bones like the cornice of a temple, his brow furrowed and stern, he does not look at the men who surround him. He walks as if he were alone on a battlefield. He is coming to kill me. Hector. My breaths are shallow gasps that feel like new wounds tearing. Remembrance drums in me, like the pulse beat of blood in my ears. He cannot kill me. He must not. Achilles will not let him live if he does, and Hector must live always. He must never die, not even when he is old, not even when he is so withered that his bones slide beneath his skin like loose rocks in a stream. That's a really gross metaphor. He must live because his life, I think, as I scrape backwards over the grass, is the final dam before Achilles' own blood will flow. Desperately, I turn to the men around me and scramble at their knees. Please, I croak, please. But they will not look. They are watching their prince, Priam's eldest son, and his inexorable steps towards me. My head jerks back, and I see he is close now, his spear raised. The only sound I hear is my own heaving lungs, air pumped into my chest as I push from it. Hector's spear lifts over me, tripping like a pitcher, and then it falls, a spill of bright silver toward me. No. My hands flurry in the air like startling birds trying to halt the spear's relentless movement toward my belly. But I am weak as a baby against Hector's strength, and my palms give way, unspooling in ribbons of red. The spearhead submerges in a sear of pain, so great that my breath stops, a boil of agony that bursts over my whole stomach. My head drops back against the ground, and the last thing I see is of Hector, leaning seriously over me, twisting his spear inside of me as if he is stirring a pot. The last thing I think is Achilles. Jesus. Are we, like, gonna get Patroclus still narrating it? Like, that's... Because Patroclus makes a posthumous appearance in the Iliad where he comes to Achilles and he's like, stop being angry, like, go back to battle and do your thing. And so I'm thinking that's why we're going to still get him being the narrator. But, like, Jesus, I don't know. It was different than I expected. So Shannon and I are going to be on live tonight actually talking about this and some Percy Jackson news. I will see you guys then. Bye. Oh, wait, where's my... There it is.